guys, so if you follow me on Twitter, you guys know I've been watching Gundam 00 a lot recently, mostly because I do those silly little commentaries I try not to spoil anything with, but I think I've gotten pretty close to spoiling stuff. I kind of felt this time around, inspired to talk about Saji, and I would love to open up a discussion. If you've seen Gundam 00, I would love comments or video responses below about Saji, because I find him a very intriguing character, just because the journey that he went through in Gundam 00, where he starts off, I mean, he's the epitome of what I love about war anime. You know, war anime like Now and Then Here and There, kind of following that same archetype as Shu from Now and Then Here and There, or any other Gundam series that's war-based. He is this citizen of the world, this civilian who has nothing to do with the fighting, and his world is turned upside down because of the fighting. It's just so cool to see that. I mean, even in other Gundam series, like Gundam Wing, you really don't get to experience the civilian being torn apart. And while I love Gundam Wing, I do miss that aspect of the war genre, because no matter what, I mean, even though Gundam Wing is about politics versus about the actual combat, at the same time, you miss that. You miss the fact that there are civilians and their world is turned upside down when they're touched by war. I mean, I've never personally been touched by war. I know people who have gone to war. I have friends in the army. I have a friend whose husband was deployed, recently came back from deployment. You know, so I understand war to that extent, but I've never been in a war-driven country. Like, I've never been in a war-torn country before. And so to see that happen is incredibly emotional to me. And I bet would be even more emotional had I experienced it. But seeing somebody like me, for example, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like Saji personality-wise. I don't know if I would be like Saji or not. But at the same time, seeing a civilian as like with me, and having my world turned upside down and inside out and torn apart all at the same time, it's just such an interesting arc for a character for me. And I think that in itself is such a cool way to go about a war anime. And I think that's what makes the series interesting, is seeing how it affects the civilians of the world. When Gundam 00 first started, I really didn't understand why Saji was important. It became very obvious later on, but I just never understood why they made him so important. I mean, they made him important. He was always there because he was Setsuna's neighbor. His sister Kinoue was a journalist who was trying to figure out more about celestial being. So physically, it was meaningful for him to be there, because obviously he was just physically there. But they actually made him important, and I didn't understand until end of season 1 why he was important. You know, obviously he had a very tragic past with both of his parents dying and being raised by his sister, but at the same time, you really don't get to be attached to that part of his life, because you don't get to see it. You get to see pictures of his family. You get to hear the story, but at the same time, you don't see it. Like with Lock-On, you actually get to see his family die. With Setsuna, you get to see his family die. You actually get to see these pasts. Saji is kind of left an interesting mystery as to what really happened or the emotions that were involved with his family's death. But at the same time, you kind of get to experience his pain in more of a present tense kind of area. You don't get to experience his past pain, but you get to experience his present pain. Spoilers with Kinoue's death and with Louise breaking up with him. And then, of course, in season 2, you jump into the fact that he's forced to work for a celestial being when he doesn't necessarily even agree with what they're doing. And he hates them because he thinks that it's their fault that Louise broke up with him, and it's their fault that Louise's family was dead, and it was their fault that Kinoue was dead, when it really wasn't any of their faults if that ever happened. But at the same time, was their fault, just not, they didn't pull the trigger, they just loaded the gun. I've just been so intrigued by Saji, and I'm sure there are very important aspects of Saji that I'm missing, just because I'm trying so hard to do this from memory and I don't have any bullet points. I need to actually make notes on my vlogs again. So if there's something you want to add to this discussion about Saji from Gundam 00, please post comments or video responses below. I would love to see them. And I don't know, I guess Saji was just a very interesting character. Like I said, went from I don't even know why you're part of this series to my third favorite character in the entire series. So let me know what you think of Saji in comments and video responses below, and I will see you guys next time.